I woke up from surgery to fluorescent lights, beeping monitors, and the particular silence of abandonment. No husband in the chair beside my bed. No flowers on the windowsill. No evidence that anyone in the world knew or cared that I'd just survived the most terrifying morning of my life. My chest was wrapped in bandages where my breasts used to be, drains protruding from incisions I couldn't bring myself to look at, and my phone showed a single text from Marcus, the man I'd been married to for 7 years. Mom says it's best if you recover somewhere else. She says damaged goods don't come home. I'll send someone for your things. I had just lost both breasts to cancer and my marriage to cowardice in the same day, lying alone in a hospital bed while the anesthesia fog lifted to reveal a reality more brutal than any diagnosis. But they'd forgotten one crucial thing, one detail that would soon matter very much. The house they'd decided to keep was in my name, and my name alone. 30 days later, they were the ones with nowhere to go. Let me tell you about the day I lost everything and discovered what I actually had. The diagnosis came 3 months before the surgery. Stage 2 breast cancer, aggressive subtype, caught during a routine mammogram I'd almost skipped because work was busy and Marcus complained when I took time off. The oncologist's words blurred together: treatment options, survival rates, genetic factors, while I sat frozen in a body that had suddenly become enemy territory. Marcus was with me for that appointment. He held my hand, said the right things, promised we'd fight this together. His mother, Constance, sent flowers and a card about staying strong. Then they learned what fighting actually meant. The bilateral mastectomy was my choice. Given my genetic markers and family history, removing both breasts gave me the best chance of survival. The decision wasn't easy. Nothing about cancer is easy, but it was clear. I wanted to live. The breasts were a price I was willing to pay. Marcus was less certain. Both of them. His voice carried something I didn't want to identify. Isn't that extreme? Maybe there are other options. The other options have lower survival rates. But reconstructive surgery takes months. You'd be different. I'd be alive. He stopped arguing. But he also stopped touching me. The distance grew as the surgery approached. Marcus found reasons to work late, to sleep in the guest room. Didn't want to disturb your rest. To be absent when I needed presence most. His mother's visits increased proportionally. She'd appear at our house unannounced, whispering with her son in conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. I told myself it was stress, fear about the surgery, the natural response of a man confronting his wife's mortality. I was making excuses for abandonment I couldn't yet name. The morning of the surgery, Marcus dropped me at the hospital. "I'll park and come find you," he said, not meeting my eyes. I checked in alone, prepped alone, signed consent forms alone. When they came to wheel me to the operating room, I was still alone. "Your husband?" the nurse asked, not unkindly. "Parking, I think. He'll be here when I wake up." She nodded, but something in her expression suggested she'd seen this before. The partners who couldn't handle illness. The love that evaporated when bodies became inconvenient. I went under still believing he'd be there when I opened my eyes. He wasn't. The recovery room was quiet, clinical, empty of anyone who loved me. I drifted in and out of consciousness, waiting for Marcus to appear, for flowers to arrive, for some evidence that my marriage had survived what my body had endured. My phone buzzed with his text. "Mom says it's best if you recover somewhere else. She says damaged goods don't come home. I'll send someone for your things." I read it 7 times. Each reading hurt worse than the incisions throbbing beneath my bandages. Damaged goods. His mother's words, but he'd typed them. Sent them. Chosen them over me. The hospital social worker found me crying. Her name was Patricia, and she'd seen enough of humanity's failures to recognize what was happening. She didn't offer empty comfort. Instead, she offered practical help. "Do you have somewhere to go when you're discharged?" "I have a house. My house. It's in my name." She paused. "Just yours. My grandmother left me money before we married. I bought it outright. Marcus was never on the deed." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "Then you have somewhere to go. And they have a problem they don't know about yet." The next 3 weeks were a blur of recovery and planning. I stayed with my college roommate, Denise, who drove 4 hours to collect me from the hospital because my husband couldn't be bothered to answer his phone. She changed my bandages, emptied my drains, and listened while I processed betrayal and bilateral mastectomy simultaneously. "What are you going to do?" she asked one night, after the worst of the physical healing had passed. Take back what's mine. The house. Everything. The house, my dignity, my future. I paused. They think I'm broken. They think losing my breasts means losing my power. They're wrong. I consulted a lawyer during week 2. Margaret Thornton, recommended by Denise's sister, specializing in divorce and property law. She reviewed my documentation with the particular satisfaction of someone who loved destroying assumptions. The house is entirely yours, she confirmed. Premarital asset, purchased with inherited funds, never added him to the deed. He has no legal claim whatsoever. He's been living there for 7 years. As your guest. A guest you can ask to leave. She smiled. Would you like to ask him to leave? I want to give him 30 days. That's more than he gave me. Reasonable. Generous, even. She began drafting. Let's discuss the divorce itself. Marcus had filed first, predictably. His petition cited irreconcilable differences and requested equitable division of marital assets, including the house he believed was half his. His lawyer had apparently not done thorough research. Margaret's response was devastating. We counterfiled with documentation proving the house was my separate property. We included financial records showing I'd paid every mortgage payment. There was no mortgage. Every tax bill, every maintenance cost for 7 years. We requested he vacate the premises within 30 days per standard eviction procedures for non-owners. His lawyer called Margaret the day after receiving our filing. There must be some mistake. Mr. Holloway has lived in that house for 7 years. As the guest of my client, who is now revoking her hospitality, the deed is clear. The funds are traceable. Your client has no legal standing to remain. But his mother lives there too. Then she should start packing as well. I returned to my house on day 28. Marcus's car was in the driveway. His mother's Cadillac beside it. They'd clearly received the legal notices and chosen to ignore them, assuming I wouldn't actually enforce my rights. They assumed wrong. I walked up the front steps of the house I'd bought with my grandmother's money, the house where I'd planned to raise children with a man who'd abandoned me at my most vulnerable. I knocked on my own door. Constance answered. Her face cycled through shock, disgust, and something approaching fear as she registered my presence. I was thinner than before. Cancer and betrayal will do that. But I was standing, breathing, refusing to disappear. You can't be here, she managed. Marcus said. Marcus said what? That damaged goods don't come home. I smiled. This is my home. Has been since before I met your son. You have 2 days to vacate before the sheriff removes you. That's not legal. It's extremely legal. Check with Marcus's lawyer if you don't believe me. I stepped past her into my own foyer. Marcus appeared from the kitchen, his expression mixing guilt and defiance in proportions that might have hurt me once. Now I felt nothing but clarity. Natalie, be reasonable. His voice was the one he used when negotiating. This is our home. It's my home. Always has been. You'd know that if you'd ever paid attention to anything that didn't directly benefit you. We can talk about this. We could have talked about it in the hospital. When I woke up alone after major surgery. When you texted me that your mother called me damaged goods. I set my purse on the table that I'd chosen, in the living room I'd decorated, in the house I'd purchased. There's nothing to talk about now. Just logistics. Constance was sputtering. You can't just throw us out. I can. I am. 2 days, or the authorities do it for me. They left on day 30. I watched from the window as Marcus loaded boxes into a rental truck, his mother directing with the particular fury of someone whose assumptions had collided with reality. They'd found an apartment across town, a 2-bedroom that probably felt very small after 7 years of living in a house they'd never contributed to. When the truck pulled away, I walked through every room. The bed where Marcus had stopped touching me after the diagnosis. The guest room where he'd retreated to avoid confronting my illness. The kitchen where Constance had whispered her poison while I was too sick to notice. I opened every window. Let fresh air sweep through. Then I called a contractor about renovations. The divorce finalized 4 months later. Marcus got nothing from me. No house, no alimony, no share of accounts he'd never contributed to. His petition for equitable distribution was denied when Margaret demonstrated that I'd supported him as much as he'd supported me during our marriage, and that every major asset was legally and provably mine. He didn't fight after that. Perhaps his mother finally explained how badly they'd miscalculated. The reconstruction surgery happened the following spring. Not because I needed breasts to be whole. I'd learned that lesson during months of recovery. but because I wanted them. For me. Because I'd survived cancer and abandonment and emerged with the right to make choices about my own body. Denise was there when I woke up. So were other friends, real ones, people who'd appeared when Marcus disappeared. The room was full of flowers. I cried, but they were different tears. Healing ones. 2 years later, I ran into Constance at a grocery store. She looked diminished, older, smaller, as if cruelty had costs she hadn't anticipated. She saw me from across the produce section and froze, clearly calculating whether to flee or engage. I walked over. Mrs. Holloway. Natalie. Her voice was careful. You look well. I am well. Healthy. Happy. I paused. Cancer-free for 22 months. I heard. That's good. It is good. Do you know what else is good? I didn't wait for her answer. Knowing that the worst moment of my life, waking up alone after surgery, reading that text about damaged goods, was also the moment I started becoming who I actually am. She had no response. You meant to break me. You and Marcus both. You saw my cancer as an opportunity to discard something inconvenient. I smiled. Instead, you freed me from people who would have dragged me down forever. So thank you, Constance, for the cruelty that accidentally saved my life. I walked away without looking back. The house is beautiful now. I renovated everything, new colors, new furniture, new energy in every room. The spaces that once held painful memories have been transformed into places of peace. My bedroom has a reading nook. My kitchen hosts dinner parties. My garden grows vegetables and flowers and evidence that life continues after everything tries to end it. I started a support group for women whose partners abandoned them during illness. We meet monthly, share stories, remind each other that we were never the damaged ones. Marcus remarried last year. I heard about it from mutual acquaintances who thought I'd want to know. His new wife is younger, healthy, probably unaware of what happens when her value becomes inconvenient. I hope she never finds out. I hope he's changed. But I also hope she knows what I didn't, that she deserves better than conditional love. That her worth isn't determined by her body's perfection. That any partner who would abandon her at her lowest isn't a partner at all. Some nights, I still think about that hospital room. The fluorescent lights. The beeping monitors. The text that rearranged my understanding of everything. Damaged goods don't come home. I wasn't damaged. I was transforming. Shedding weight I didn't know I was carrying. A husband who saw me as an asset. A mother-in-law who saw me as competition. A marriage that was never about love. The cancer tried to kill me. Marcus and Constance tried to discard me. Neither succeeded. I'm dating again. His name is Jonathan. He's a widower who understands loss. A kind man who sees my scars as evidence of survival rather than damage. He knows what happened with Marcus. He's never once made me feel like my history diminishes me. Last month, he told me he loved me. I believe him. Not because I'm naive, that capacity was burned away in a hospital room, but because I've learned to recognize real love versus performance. Real love stays. Real love shows up. Real love doesn't text abandonment while you're recovering from surgery. Real love is what I have now. What I had before was just practice. The house is paid off. The cancer is gone. The marriage is a memory. And I'm still here. Standing in my kitchen, in my home, in my life. None of which belongs to people who saw me as disposable. They called me damaged goods. They were wrong about everything except this. I don't belong to them anymore. I belong to myself. And that's worth more than anything they could have given me.